Morning, guys. Coffee time. Have a hard question for you to think about today. Hope you're willing to think. Now, there may be a couple questions in here, but it all comes down to one question. Okay. The Bible, and I would say the Apocrypha. God's Word. Let's just take God's Word. We believe the Bible is God's Word, correct? Okay. So, is God's Word in intention to bind us or to free us? So that's the question. Are you freed by God's Word? Are you freed? Are you free by God's Word? Or are you bound by God's Word? There's a difference. Now, this will come down to man's perspective and perception, your own. What do I mean by that? Okay. I had this in my head this morning. In one of the first videos that pop up on I don't even know if it was YouTube or social media. Like, I opened up the app and it just started playing. And I'm sure that's happened to a lot of you. So anyway, it's this gentleman, and he is stating of what everything is a sin. Okay, in other words, he's going through these things that are sins and posting the corresponding chapter and verse with it. Oh, posting something about your sports team. Chapter, verse, here's why it's a sin, etc. See, now this is the Pharisees, okay? They are binding you by God's law, okay? In their perception and perspective, you are bound. And the truth is we're all sinners, okay? But you see, some people look at it through the perspective of sin and being bound or chained instead of free. These are pretty much the two perspectives that we view our faith through. You're either bound or you're free. Now, what brings this into a binding is pretty much religion, okay? Religion is, the original word is Latin, and it literally means to bind. The later interpretation is is a vow, and later interpretations are also to congregate. But you see, the original Latin was to bind. Now, bind can be looked at two different ways: to hold someone to account or to bring others together. Okay, that's what it would kind of be. But now let's take perspective and perception, okay? Eyes and ears. This is what we see and what we hear, okay? Yet no one goes with the heart. It's what they see and what they hear and what they see. And the heart last, where the heart should be first. There's an old saying, body, mind, and spirit. They always put spirit last. Okay, in the physical word. It should be spirit, mind, and body. Okay. See, now, religion binds you, all right? It binds you to a particular perspective. Look, oh, hey, we don't do baptisms on the young. Sorry. We don't believe in this. We don't believe in that. Okay. Again, it's a binding. In other words, if you want to be part of us, we don't believe in those things. Again, this is all through the separation of man and division of man. And this is where this perception comes from, is being bound by God's word instead of being freed by his very breath and his word. I did the video the other day, several days back, Jesus is the way and the truth and the life. Except when it's, it comes through a perspective of religion. I was basically saying, we it's the Catholic way, the truth and the life. To the way. The Presbyterian way. To the way. The truth and the life. It's any denomination's view to the way and the truth of the life. In other words, we all follow man before we follow God. So I ask you to do a soul searching as far as how you view your faith. And again, we all follow man to some degree. And like the gentleman's videos, we are all sinners. But if you look at that perspective, this is a sin, that is a sin, this is a sin. And then you end up like Matthew 7, 22, 23. Jesus, Lord, 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 did we not prophesy in your name? And then God says, I don't know you. Oh, that pertains to false prophets. It also pertains to false beliefs. Okay? Because you see, you could be the false prophet, including myself. That's a tough one to take note of, isn't it? Maybe you're the problem. I'll give that a second one. But again, this is kind of going to the heart, no pun intended and pun intended, of the matter. Where's your heart? Do you follow religion's view or perception of faith, or do you follow your faith over any religion? No, I'm not trying to sway you into the way I believe or my faith. I'm not. I don't tie myself to religion, and it's pretty much right there. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. Period. Done. Over. He is the way. It is not the Christian denomination way. To the way and the truth and the life. Okay? So, getting back to the original question. Do you see God's word as a bind? In other words, chains. Are you chained by God's word? Or are you free? See, because we live in the physical world, we are bound, so to speak. But it's a perspective of either being chained by God's laws or word. I like to say word, God's word. See, because like the gentleman's video that popped up and just started playing, this is a sin, that is a sin, that is a sin, this is a sin, that is a sin. That's not a way God intended us to live. That is them focusing on this chapter and verse mentality and missing the essence of God's word. Anyway, food for thought today.